I'm Nancy Rose. I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew. I'm a big fan of Keith's. He's doing such a great job, especially in the work of helping those with disability.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Keith Andrew Network. This is episode 598. That's right, 598. I'm here with the talented and beautiful Nancy Rose. I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, the honor is all mine. For people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. It's to prove to them you can still amount to something. So hashtag break the labels. That being said, normal conversation, freedom of speech, self-expression. It is uncensored, but keep in mind it is PG-13. With that being said, I'm giving you the format to say what you like and everything. And the first question I was going to ask you is, how was life growing up? And were you a study nerd or party animal when you went to college?
So life growing up was a little interesting because my parents, like a lot of parents, divorced, and my mom and so I was born and raised here in LA, and my mom and I fell on hard times, and we ended up homeless for a while, and so that was pretty scary. When I was 7, she lost me to foster care, and then I was in foster care, and I was adopted out of foster care, which, being in the middle part of childhood, is kind of it's very rare to be plucked out of foster care and adopted. So then I was able to get a really good education. But yeah, it was pretty rough. And then, and I was a nerd, so not quite the party animal, although I liked to party, but the party opportunities were few and far between because I was a nerd.
Nah, I can relate to that. I was always the outcast.
Yeah, well, we laugh now. I mean, it's not funny, but yeah, yeah.
That's true. And what did you major in?
So when I went to college, I majored in psychology. But let me back up for a second. I also dropped. So being a nerd, I really wanted to party, so I started to do that, and then I dropped out of high school. So there was a couple of years between high school and going to college. And then I majored in psychology. And then my last year of psychology, a professor pulled me aside and said, "I think that you would make a great teacher. Have you ever thought about doing special ed?" So I went down that path and got my degree and license in teaching and did that for a few years.
Oh, nice. And do you have any regrets?
No, absolutely not. Not for that. I think I do regret getting a degree in psychology initially, just because there's not anything that you can do. It does not qualify you to do anything. Later, I went back and got a master's, and now I'm a psychotherapist. But you can do that with a different bachelor's, and so I really should have set myself up so that I didn't have to keep going to school and keep going to school. So.
Well, being a psychotherapist, I guess you can have a field day with me, right?
That's what most people say. Yeah.
Then the next,
Most people are always like, "Hey, I need counseling." Yeah.
hey, if you like listening, that would be the kind of work to do. But the
Mm-hmm.
next question I was going to ask you is, what were some of your favorite sports you ever did growing up?
I'm not very athletic, but I liked to run. I did do track and field. I played soccer a few seasons, but it just wasn't my thing. My parents put me in softball when I was during my adolescence, probably to keep me out of trouble. Then again, I was kind of nerdy, so I wasn't really in trouble, and I did not like that. And then I've done martial arts, and I do enjoy that. So overall, I guess running and martial arts, I'm just not very athletic.
Well, the first question I want to ask you is martial arts. Did Mighty Morphin Power Rangers influence you to do that?
No. No, living in LA is kind of tough. That influenced me to do that.
Makes sense. And what about, did you ever get the chance to do one of those, human pyramids, or not into the human pyramid stuff?
No, not into the human pyramid stuff.
I love that stuff. I'm a loser.
Doesn't make you a loser, just different interests, right?
Stroke. It's funny about, go back to mixed martial arts. My two brothers were there. They always had, let's see if I remember, they had the green belt, and I think they had a red belt or a yellow belt. And I always was too hyper to be part of martial arts, but maybe it would have worked on me, give me more confidence, self-defense. Who knows, maybe in an alternative universe I did. But I always used to play with their karate outfit and used to pretend I was like a Power Ranger.
But it's not too late. You can still do martial arts. It's not like you're dead yet. So I started when I was, again, adolescence, and then again in my 20s, and then again just like 5 years ago. And each time I get up to about blue belt right before the next belt, and then which is red, and that's where life happens, and I end up quitting, and I'm like, oh, I'm just taking a break, and then I don't go back. So it's probably time to get back to it.
Well, blue looks nice on it.
Oh, thanks.
And you know what they say about blue, according to Breaking Bad? Blue, if people wear the color blue, that means royalty.
Royalty?
All the colors in the show mean something. I just remember that the blue one means royalty.
Oh, okay.
Like you hold yourself up and kind of look down on everyone. Not saying you're looking down on me, but I'm not saying the color royalty means it has power to it, like a higher standard.
Loyalty. Yeah, guess that makes sense. Yes, and I loved that show, Breaking Bad.
No, absolutely. It's funny, I would say Breaking Bad. I'm trying to think, did I ever interview anyone from that show? I might have, but it wasn't anyone big. It wasn't like Jesse or Bryan Cranston, or it was no one big. It was probably just like an extra or something. But okay. I got in people like who are extras on Breaking Bad, House of Cards. Trying to think without hurting myself. House of Cards, Breaking Bad. Let's see, Rescue Me, no one. Supergirl, no. General Hospital, I got a couple people. Orange is the New Black. There's a couple of shows here and there that I got in. But so I've been getting around.
Yeah. And, are you a Better Call Saul fan?
I like him, but I didn't really care for the show. It was too slow.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched a little bit of it, but then just kind of, tapered off. So
the next question I was going to ask you is, mentioned you were a teacher. Who were some of your favorite students left an impression on your life, and that surprised you when they amounted to something?
So, my first year teaching, I had a couple of boys that were just always, like you were saying, how you were very hyper in class, always roughhousing, and then they would pick on other kids too, and so then, see, that was 4th grade. Fast forward, and I remember seeing them in high school, and they were about 16. And one in particular so there were these two boys, and one would get into more trouble than the other. And so when I saw him later, and he was about 16, he was working at this grocery store, and everybody loved him. He was polite. I couldn't believe that it was the same kid. And just that level of respect that he gave to everyone, that was so just drastically different than the little fourth grader that I dreaded seeing some mornings. I was like, just be absent. And I would go to the grocery store. I started seeing kind of his schedule, and just kind of, he was working their afternoons since he went to school. And it was just really great to see him in that capacity, and to know that, people do change. But yes, that he is going to be a success. I caught up with him a couple of years after that, and he was doing, of course, a different job. And then, I just was like, oh, good. It just made my heart feel, like I'm just really happy to see that.
No, absolutely. And it's kind of funny. There's this speech, motivational speech speaker, former wrestler who's a motivational speaker, if that makes sense. He's a former wrestler turned motivational speaker. And one of his lines that he said was, look to your left, look to your right, and it said one of those people on your side is a real friend or a phony, and something along those lines. You heard it too when you were in school. Look to your left, look to your right. One of those people will be something. One of those things won't amount to anything. One of those people will be your best friend. Some people are your fake friends. But it's just like one of those things where just because you're saying, hey, look left, look right, it doesn't mean a damn thing. But to sum it up, if you have the heart and passion to do what you love day in and day out, that's all that matters. For me, like I said to you off the air, I've been doing this for almost 6 years, and this is what I want to do until the day I am 6 feet under. I'm not saying that to be cute. I'm not saying that to be funny. This is what I want to do until the day I die, because I have the heart and passion for it. Of course, I have a lot of work ahead of me, but it doesn't mean, going back to the next thing I was going to ask you about mental health and working with people with special needs. It's kind of like it doesn't matter what stigma you have or what has been thrown at you. If you can take baby steps and overcome anything in your way, you can accomplish anything.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I know you mentioned when you were in college, the guy asked you, how would you like to be a special education teacher? So with that being said, do you have any regrets? And what's the kid that you met up with, from being hyper, being 4 to 16, how do you feel that you made an impression on somebody's life?
So no, I don't have any regrets in the route that I took, teaching and to psychotherapy. The goal was to do psychotherapy out the gate, and the teaching was kind of this little detour, but I would not change that. I absolutely loved the years that I worked in the schools. And what was your question about the kid?
Do you think you made an impression on him?
Yes, absolutely. Him and the other kids too, just because when I would see them when they got older, and they would tell me, Miss Gradé, you made, and then they would talk about specific stuff and how that was an impact for them. And I don't want to, tell too much about their story, because of course they should be anonymous, but there were some kids who were in really tough situations, and like really tough situations. And so some kids needed to have some interventions in their family. Some kids, their families loved them. They did everything that they possibly could, but they were falling short. And so we had an incredible team at our schools that would help out and connect them with resources to pay for, if, you know, one of my kids' the mom was a single mom and their electricity was turned off. I didn't find out about it until I think they'd already been without electricity for a week. But the school band together and turned that electricity back on. So later on, when I would see these kids and they would tell me just the amount of impact that I made, and it's really teachers in general. This is the impact that teachers make on students. And it was remarkable to be able to be part of that.
No, absolutely. Now, what would you say about working with mental health is your biggest accomplishment? And are you satisfied with everything you accomplished, or do you think there's more?
My biggest accomplishment. That's tough, because I also feel like it's like teaching, where you're facilitating and you're helping someone grow. And so then the accomplishment really doesn't go to that facilitator, right? And so I've had different types of clients. I've had some clients that were refugees, and they came over, and I helped them navigate in their new country, America, which is vastly different from where they came from. And then they would talk about their stories, some of their traumas. And then some of my clients have been the military, so I've been able to work in that capacity. That's definitely a challenge, and it's helped me grow. And I feel like the military has a little bit of a mind frame. I don't want to say that they just have this collective mindset, and sometimes they need a counselor to help them get past what they've been taught. And so even just within maybe 2 sessions, they make great strides, because they need to just have this other person tell them something different than what the military tells them. So I feel like, and they do say, hey, thank you so much. They're really appreciative people. And then the other type of people that I've talked to or that I've worked with are people who are highly psychotic. And I think that's one of my favorite groups, because I don't argue with someone that's psychotic. I engage in what it is that they're seeing. What are they hearing? What's going on in their world? And then from there, and now these clients are also on medication. So then the medication does have to be tweaked by the doctor, and the therapist just makes sure that everything is okay, talks to them about life and stuff. But for me, I've learned how to talk to people who are hallucinating in a different way, so that they can use those hallucinations kind of to help them diffuse the situations that's really real to them. For instance, seeing angels and demons, or hearing voices that are telling them something that's harmful. So we call those persecutory hallucinations. And so then I'd say, well, is it a male or a female voice? And if they say it's a male, okay, turn it into a female voice. Okay, turn it into, now pick a cartoon character. So Keith, pick a cartoon character. Any character.
Okay, well, I guess for an example, trying to think, there's a lot of them.
Mickey Mouse, right? Bugs Bunny.
Thank you.
Whatever. And so then, now I would say, now take what you're hearing and turn it in that voice into that cartoon character. So you could do that with your thoughts right now, and you can turn it, and just, if you do that with your thoughts, it makes you laugh. And so then it would make my clients laugh. And from there, it helped to diffuse the scary stuff that they hear, because now it's just making them laugh. So yeah, it's been a journey.
Then the next question I was going to ask you is, who influenced you to become an actress, and how many years have you been acting?
I haven't been acting very long at all. It's something that I wanted to do when I was younger, like much, much younger. I tried it out when I was about 18. Acting is a very expensive hobby, and I just didn't have the funds for all of the classes and everything that it takes. Let's see, I would say, being that this goes back to being a kid, I would say probably who really influenced me. I mean, it's just all of those sitcoms growing up watching other kids on TV, and you're like, oh, I could do that. And then, but doing it is a totally different story. So it's not something that I've really been able to pick up until the last couple of years.
All right. Well, now we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go back to your acting.
Okay.
And ask you about social media.
Yeah.
Williams. This is Vanessa Lina. I'm Asian Lalo. This is Cynthia Bastinet. I'm Sonia Fisher. This is Shane Smith. My name is Alexandra Bowie. My name is Amelia Clover. Hi, I'm Amy Linden. Hi, I'm Anita Nicole Brown. Meg Green. Hi, my name is Asata Caldwell. Hi, everybody, I'm Brooke from Hi, I'm Brynford. Hi, I'm Casey Dunn. Hi, it's Cassandra Kavinsky. Hi, I'm Christina Frieza. I'm Cindy Hogan. I'm Courtney Sinello. Hi, I'm Daisy. My name is Deborah Jane East. Hi, my name is Danielle Marcia. Hi, everyone, I'm Victoria London. Hi, I'm Heather Crona. Hi, I'm Heather Callahan Stevens. Hi, I'm Jay Nicole Ralph. My name is Jamie Patrell. My name is Turi. My name is Julia Brenkovich. Kathleen Wills. Kimberly Amato. Hi, my name is Laura Putton. Hi, I'm Laura Chapanis. Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Damas. This is Michelle Mupo, a.k.a. Fuchsia. I'm Rachel Rivera. Hi, my name is Sarah Joy Mount. Hi, I'm Susan Brender. Hi, everyone. This is Venus Leone. Hi, I'm Cheryl Tanner.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Herrera, and I was just on the Keith Andrew Network. It was tons of fun. We used up all our time and then some. I really recommend this show, and try to be a guest on Keith's show. It was super fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 598. That's right, we're very close to our goal of 600. It's 598. And here's Nancy Rose. And the last two questions I want to talk to you about is, let's continue the acting role because that's where we're on. Do you think with everything that you were taught and you were a teacher, with everything that you went through in your life, do you think anyone can be an actor, number one? And do you think there's a stigma for people with disabilities trying to get into the entertainment world because there's more limitations on them?
Keith, I think that there was a stigma at one point, but being that people are more aware and open and just accepting today, that there's not really that much of a stigma. Of course, this is coming from somebody who doesn't have a disability, but I am really honed in on the way that people are treated, and so I haven't seen that. I've taken so many acting classes in the last couple of years, and I just haven't seen that anywhere. I've taken acting classes from some of the best, but I've taken some really bad acting classes from some of the worst here in LA, and I just haven't seen that. So I would say that anybody can come and be an actor. Now, not everybody has the talent, and that's why you have to go to acting class. You have to go to acting class. But can anybody be an actor? Absolutely. And now he didn't necessarily have a disability per se, like a is a physical disability, but it wasn't like any sort of learning disability, mental disabilities. But a friend of the family that adopted me, they had this friend named Hervé Villachez, which he was also known by as Tattoo. And he was a little person. I mean, a very, very little person. And so again, now they didn't get me until middle childhood. So I hadn't been exposed really to anybody like this. And I certainly was not a refined person. I'd never heard of this actor before. So when I met him, and I shocked my parents. They were so embarrassed. But I met him, and I was like really excited to meet him. And I thought that maybe he was another kid, but then I realized he had a mustache, so I was so confused. And the best I could compare this person to was something that from, as a kid, my childhood. So I just looked at him, and I was really excited. And I was like, "Are you a Muppet?" So no, he wasn't a Muppet. He was a famous person. I think that during that time, it was really tough. I know it was tough for him as an actor. He still made it. But after they kind of used him fully, then they discarded him. And I just feel like today, though, and that was like back in the 80s. So today, it's a different story. So don't be afraid. Come on.
And you could say, are you a hobbit?
Yeah, I didn't know about hobbits, though, when I was 8 years old.
Now, the next one I was going to ask you is, what about social media? With everything you accomplish, how do you feel about Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and especially being an actor, backstage, all access? Do you think those help people, or do you think it's just having the heart and passion for doing what you love?
So backstage and actors access, those two are just platforms for getting jobs, for booking some acting gigs. They're not necessarily social media, but they do help. And social media like Facebook, and Instagram, what I've noticed is that it's difficult. It's really difficult when somebody says, I want to be an actor, and then they start posting things, because other people get jealous and they think that actors are ridiculous. So then there's a little bit of spiteful people out there that say things. Other times, though, because we do have to get headshots and we have to update our look in our headshots and to show a range, when we post those pictures, it's not a sexy picture. Something as innocuous as a headshot, it's just like this, gets all of these raunchy comments or messages, someone on Messenger is like, hey, I saw your headshot, I loved it. And this is only open, Instagram is open for anybody to see, and so I get messages there from strangers. Facebook is only from people who friend me, so that's not open to the public. But yet, my friends on Facebook think it's okay to send me messages that are really hurtful or pretty disgusting. So when you go into acting and you have social media, it makes you more vulnerable. So we're told to use it, but you can't have a thin skin.
That's true. And what about, say, does your following matter? Does your Instagram, say you have 1,000 people on Twitter and Instagram and all that, does that help you book the role? Or is it the message that stands out more?
So it used to be that they wanted people that had lots of followers. And when I say they, that would be the industry. So they would want somebody with a lot of followers because they thought that then this project, this whatever, maybe a show or movie, is going to be bolstered by the people who are on it, and they each have thousands of followers. And what they found out was that's not necessarily true. A lot of those followers are fake, and a lot of them just don't care anyway. So then now they're realizing that they want somebody that's more genuine, that has talent. So no, the followers really don't matter. I have friends that have 20, 30,000 followers, and they're not doing any better than I am in acting. And I'm still, like I said, I've just started this 2 years ago, so I'm still new. That's still just starting out, and I'm not doing poorly, but I'm nowhere near as what you would call like a B-list actor.
It's funny to mention that. I have a hashtag I created. I thought it would be funny because no one really uses it that much. You mentioned you're not a B-list. I call myself the D-plus player. Because there's a wrestler saying, The Miz, it's like, I'm an A-lister. And then there's a storyline Daniel Bryan where he's the underdog, and Triple H is saying, you are just a B-plus player. A couple years later, he was saying that to Kobe Kingston, you're just a B-plus player. And I was thinking, well, I'm not an A-plus, not a B. Screw it. I'm going to say hashtag D-plus player. I've been saying that I add WWE into what I'm doing. Say, hey, look, I'm a D-plus player. People are like, well, why call yourself a D-plus player? The D-plus stands for disability. So I'm a disability player. So I'm turning the D into something. So yes, I'm a D-plus player, but I'm also a disability player.
I love that. That's awesome.
Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. Now, with that being said, was the last couple minutes, was there anything you wanted to know, anything you wanted to promote? This is your time.
Okay. I'm not so great with promotion, but I am going to promote this horror movie that I'm going to be on, and it's called Normal Terror, so check that out. It's produced by Sam I Am Mason, so you can look him up and Normal Terror on Instagram and Facebook. Sam I Am is a rising star. Everything he's touching right now is turning to gold. So I expect this movie to be the same. It is indie. It's not going to be something that you see in the theater, but it's going to be great. So check it out.
Yeah, maybe he can turn me to gold, right?
Me too.
But I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up, are you on Twitter, Instagram, Stage 32, LinkedIn? Are you on any of those fun sites? And when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first reaction? And after doing the interview, how do you feel now? And would you recommend it to other people?
Yeah. So my first reaction was like, okay, well, what's this all about? And then you told me, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's awesome. Hey, I'm kind of a perfect person for it, And then I am on Facebook, of course, and Instagram, but I don't really use Twitter much. I just don't see. I use it to get news, to get like really current news.
Fake news.
What?
Fake news.
Sometimes, but if I'm watching the news and at the bottom it has the little ticker where it gives like this headline, and I'm like, okay, why are they talking about the Kardashians, but they're not talking about this plane that just went down over in like Nebraska and 4 died? Like what? So I'll go on Twitter, and Twitter will have like all the latest. And so, plus eyewitness accounts right there, people are videoing, whatever. So that's what I use Twitter for.
All right. And how do you feel after being interviewed by me?
How do I feel now?
Yes.
Oh, well, I was nervous at first, and then I feel fine. I wish that I would have like not been so verbose and talked so much, but that's just who I am. So
Yeah, I had no problem with it. Now, stay tuned. I do have a couple questions for you off the air about wrapping up our interview segment. It was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Yeah, me too. And thanks so much for having me and reaching out. And I'm not even sure how I found you or you found me. You found me, but I don't know how that happened. Where was that?
It was funny because it said on Facebook, suggested user, so they recommended users.
Okay, all right. So, because I'm in a bunch of different groups for actors, and then I was just like, is he in one of those groups? Or, like, I wasn't sure. But, yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's fun.